So I wanted to look at the difference between, because last week I was building I was building a Restfull API, and this week I'm building a Graphql API. So I wanted to look at the differences that I've encountered when I've been building these two technologies. So the biggest difference that I discovered is that with with RESTful API, I make use of all the HTTP methods. For example, the get, the patch, the put, the delete. All of these I dealt with them separately, But I made use of all of these in the delete as well. So which means each interaction has a different endpoint that I then have to use. Uh, let me show you that. This, for example, is a phone book API that I have. If I click on that and then open that in another tab, it will go to the live to the deployed version. And then let me say here, was I used Swagger. So if I say slash API docs like that, it should give me a response. And this is going to show you the different endpoints that you're going to interact with as you deal with this API. It's taking a bit of time than expected, but that's because I'm using a free option. Okay. Right. So here is let me open this one so long as well, so that it can load while I'm busy with the other one. Okay. So then this one, this is the documentation that I was working on last week. But if I want to get all the contacts, it means that I have to run this endpoint. So it will be whatever the URL is, and then slash contacts, and then if I query that and then execute, it then responds with all the information that is coming from the database regarding all the contacts that are in there. So that's the endpoint that I use for getting. And then for post, it's still slash contacts. The reason why I'm using the same endpoint for both is because I'm using two different methods, the get and the post. So it's two different paths altogether. So let's say, for example, I want to get, I already queried this one. Let's say I want this, let's see who, let's get McDonald. We take the ID, we copy that. Now I want to query for an individual, not all of them. So then it says here you have to provide the ID. Okay, let's try that out. So this is the ID. I paste it here, and then I execute, and then it returns the data that I've queried. But you can see now the issue with that is that it brings all of the information regarding this particular document within our database. Now the difference that you're going to see later on is that you can play around with the kind of information that you want to retain with GraphQL. But the major difference that I was able to pick up is that you have multiple endpoints, and you use a whole lot of HTTP methods, and then you don't have the ability to choose what data you want returned from the database. So most of the, let's say I just want to display the person's name and the last name and the email, maybe after you've logged in. Now I have a whole bunch of data coming in that I'm not going to make use of. So that's a downside to using RESTful, but it obviously has its own apps. Now with GraphQL, you will notice here that if I say the endpoint that I'll use is slash GraphQL. Here I might have used one endpoint to just get to the documentation, but when you actually interacting with the actual API, you're going to be using different endpoints. So this is providing you with a guideline on how to interact with the API. Now, on the other hand, with this one, I only need GraphQL, and then if I go to the docs, let me just remove this. If I go to the docs, there's also documentation embedded within the UI for dealing with it. So now it says to me here, you have, and by the way, all GraphQL queries, they go through the post requests, all of them, whether you're getting, you're throwing, you're putting information or whatever. The only difference is that you have the query and mutation. For example, this is the documentation. They're saying here, if you want to query, this is what you have to do now. If I go and click on that, it then says you can get user, and then you can get all users. So let me get a user, or let me get all users, to so to speak of. So what do we need to do to get your users? Let me come here, then I'll say it's a query. Then I'll say query to even suggest you. Then what's the next? If I then say get all users as such, it's already suggesting what I can do, because these are the two running here. And then let's do this. Let's from there, let's return a name. Let's return email. What else can we return? Let's just return that for now. And then we query that. So this is we want only to get the person's name and the email. So you see, we can choose the type of data that we want from there. We don't want all of it. We just want specific data. So that can work well. Let's try to see if we can get ID as well. Let's see how that goes. So then we then get the ID. So you can then say, look, I just want just one person. I'll copy that. Then I'll say I'll just remove all of this and start another query. Get user, and then get user. How do I use get user? It says you have to pass that. So then I'm going to pass user ID, where I'll pass that, and then this is what it's expecting. What is user expecting? It's expecting an ID. Okay, so let's do that. Then we say name, and then email of that person. Okay, so we want only the name and the email of this particular user. Let's query that. Then it then brings you only the detailed information that you want from the database. So all the rest of what you want to do when you're interacting with this API is basically going through that posts method. And I think if you have a look through GraphQL's website, you'll see a bit more explanation on how that works. But that's basically the difference between the two, these two, REST API and GraphQL.